Let's get started again. And I'm going to put the Pranami mantra on the screen. I always forget to share. Share Pranami mantra. Share. Okay. So hopefully you can see it. Somebody like to lead?
I can lead, Prabhuji.
Oh, please do. Yes.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Prachane Nirvashesha Shunyavadi
Paschati Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama
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 Hare
Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarubhashata Sindhuva Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavbhyo Namo Namaha
Hare
Yeah,
Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Ki
jai.
Jai.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so would somebody, oh, any, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you. Any questions from last week before we go to this week?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I
Oh,
have
Hare Sonam, yes.
Prabhuji, I have a question, but
Yes.
it's not, I don't know if it's a stupid question or what, but I wanted to ask last time when we were discussing that after a sinful person leaves their body, they are given a body which is suitable for the punishments that they are supposed to go through. So I wanted to ask Prabhuji, we often hear that, in this world, everybody will leave you, but the super soul never leaves you. So when this transition happens, when that person, whosoever, I don't want to say we, so when that person gets that body, so does the super soul still remain with them or not?
Okay. So super soul has nothing to do with what kind of body you have. Super soul simply accompanies the soul, whatever body it gets. So no animal body, no bird body, no aquatic body, doesn't matter. It's always there because it's with the soul, not with the body. So even in hell, it's still there. So let me ask you a question in return. Is there any place where the soul can go where the Paramatma does not accompany it?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, anybody else wants to answer that question? Yes, Madhu Mataji, go ahead.
No,
Oh, sorry.
no. I'm just thinking.
Okay. So the answer is that in the spiritual world, there is no Paramatma. The Paramatma feature is only in the material world. And therefore, when you get the transcendental body and go to spiritual world, that's it. Okay.
So Prabhuji, similarly, when somebody is supposed to go to the maybe to Golok, Vrindavan, or to the higher planets, I think you once had told us that before before getting a spiritual body, again there is some time period, and we again are given a birth to practice or to get I don't know. I mean, I'm just skipping things, but you got my point, right? So there, till that point, the super soul remains with the soul. So yes,
As long as you're in the material world,
okay,
super soul stays with you. It leaves
till the
you
material world.
only when you go to spiritual world.
And I was also thinking, Prabhuji, so when we do sinful activities here in this world, obviously the
When?
super soul.
Okay.
I'm sorry. So when somebody does these sinful activities in this world, obviously the super soul gets hurt, right? So we are basically hurting Krishna by doing.
No. Super soul doesn't get hurt.
Oh,
Super soul does
he
not get
doesn't.
hurt. No.
Okay.
Super soul is simply
So,
observing and sanctioning. That's it. Super soul is, remember, super soul is Krishna. Krishna doesn't get hurt as such. Even the soul doesn't get hurt except because we start to identify with the body, we get hurt.
so does he not get hurt when we neglect him, like while chanting?
Not in the sense that we talk about hurt. It's
Okay.
sad or something, it cares
Sad.
for you and all those kind of things.
So I want to understand how would he feel when a soul is going through those punishments that you told us last time, because
Yeah, but understand, for him, all of this is punishment. For him, when his children are in the material world, whether hell, heaven, whatever, they're being punished. So he's feeling bad. I think the better word is compassion as opposed to hurt.
compassion.
The better word is compassion. So yes, he's got lots of compassion. That's why he keeps trying to bring us back.
That is all. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Anybody else? Anything on the last week's discussion? Okay, all right. So then let's get started. And so as I mentioned, excuse me, we're doing fourth canto, and we're going to try and cover the first 12 chapters of the fourth canto. So the fourth canto basically starts with a discussion of the descendants of the daughters of Manu. Does anybody remember the names of how many daughters and the names?
3 daughters.
3 daughters, very good. Yes, and their names were? Anyone? Okay, Akuti.
Akuti, Devhuti, and Pasuti.
Very good, excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Akuti was married to a rishi called Ruchi. Devhuti, as you know, was married to Kardamuni. And Prasuti was married to Daksha. Daksha was the son of Lord Brahma. So they, like Daksha and Prasuti, they had 16 daughters. And the youngest one of which was married to Lord Shiva. Does anybody know the name of that girl? Sati, yes. Sati. And so it was on her own choice. Actually, you may know that she performed significant austerities. You may know the story already, so I'm not going to get into the details. But she performed significant austerities and penances to obtain Lord Shiva as her husband. And she actually had to fight with her father, who was always against Lord Shiva. So she had to fight with him to marry him. And but he was never happy. Her father, Daksha, was never happy about her choice. And he kept saying, look, Lord Shiva doesn't even own a home. He dresses like a mystic looking, or mystic yogi, I should say, with terrible looking followers. He kept saying they were ghosts and ghouls, and they were always high on narcotics. And so every time he saw Sati, he would just simply criticize her, which, totally unnecessarily, but he would do that. And of course, she was not very happy about it, but, he's her father, so what could she do? Anyway, so once Daksha decided to perform a huge sacrifice, and he had assistance from Marichi and Vasishtha. You may have heard these names. And in that sacrifice, all sorts of great sages, philosophers, demigods, and Lord Shiva, of course, Lord Brahma, they were assembled at that sacrifice. And they were sitting there. Daksha entered the assembly. And everyone, with the exception of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, they stood up in respect for Daksha. Daksha was really puffed up, so he forgot, or maybe he didn't understand, that Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are principal demigods. They're not ordinary demigods, and therefore their position is greater than Daksha's position. So he was greatly offended. He saw Lord Shiva sitting there, not showing him any respect. And being offended like that, he got very angry, and in that anger, he started speaking very strongly against Lord Shiva. And he started saying things like, oh, look at him, he's so shameless. He does not understand that he has actually accepted himself as my subordinate by marrying my daughter. His eyes are like monkeys, yet he has married my daughter whose eyes are like a doe, like a baby deer. He's impure because he doesn't observe the required rules and regulations. He lives in filthy places like crematoriums. He doesn't bathe regularly. He wears a garland of skulls and bones. And you know, the word Shiva means auspicious. So he said, he's Shiva in name only. He's not really auspicious. He's the most crazy and inauspicious creature. Yet I gave him my daughter on the request of my father, Lord Brahma. And when he finished talking like this, blaspheming Lord Shiva left and right, he said, Lord Shiva will not get a share of oblations in this sacrifice because he is the lowest of the demigods. So that very, very insulting words. It's amazing what anger can make you do. Well, Lord Shiva didn't say anything, but his servant, Nandi, does anybody know what form Nandi has?
Bull.
Bull, yes. So Nandi became very angry. Stopped all this. And can you please put yourself on mute, everyone? Maybe I will. Sorry. Just 1 second. I don't know how to do this. Okay. Sorry? So all of you who are technical, I see this blank screen in front of my screen. It says add a question. I'm trying to get rid of this. Anybody has any ideas? Okay, I'll just. I'm sorry.
Try to press escape button in the keypad.
I did that.
It's not going. Not going.
Okay, hold on.
Prabhuji, can you try pressing Windows button?
I'm sorry, Windows what?
Yeah, Windows button.
Windows button. Okay, hold on. Ah, you're a genius.
Yeah. Okay.
And Prabhu, even your audio is very lower than usual.
What's that?
Your audio is very lower than usual.
Really? Let me see what I can do.
But Sunai Deta, it's okay. Like,
You sure? I'm sorry. I can bring it closer to me. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Prabhuji, right? बिल्कुल ठीक है.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Anyway, so let's try. So Nandi got very angry and he cursed everyone who was supporting Daksha. And his curse was that all of you lose your transcendental knowledge and therefore continue your cycle of repeated birth and death by becoming attached to fruitive activities. In other words, he cursed everyone to become a karmi. Then he forecasted that very soon, Daksha, you will have a face of a goat. And he cursed the Brahmanas to become interested only in maintaining their body without discrimination between what to eat and what not to eat. And acquire money by begging simply for the satisfaction of their body. So now there's a very powerful sage sitting there. His name is Bhragu. So he got angry at this cursing going on. So he counter-cursed. And he said, all the followers of Lord Shiva will become atheists. So when this Lord Shiva saw and heard this cursing and counter-cursing going on, he became very sad. So he just got up, left the arena along with his followers. But the tension between, I'm sorry? But the tension between him and Daksha continued for a very long time. Like Lord Shiva was fine, but Daksha kept this thing in his heart and he continued to be envious of Lord Shiva and continued to be angry with him. Okay.
I can learn to understand you much better if I can get familiar with the way you talk.
I don't know what's going on today. Okay. Okay. All right. Anyway. Okay. So then we go to chapter number 3, and it talks about how Daksha became so puffed up. He was appointed by Lord Brahma as one of the chief Prajapati or progenitor. There were many of them, and he was appointed as the chief. And after being appointed like that, he performed another sacrifice. And he did not bother to invite Lord Shiva to that sacrifice. I mean, many sages, demigods from different parts of the universe, along with their wives, were invited. But Lord Shiva was not. So they were all traveling to this place where Daksha lived. And as they were on their way to attend this sacrifice, with their wives there, nicely decorated with ornaments and all that, some of them were flying above Mount Kailash where Lord Shiva lives. So Mother Sati, she overheard their conversation and she asked, hey, where are you guys going? What's happening? And she found out that her father had arranged for a sacrifice where everybody was invited. But of course, she had not received, and her husband had not received any invitation. So she approached her husband, Lord Shiva, and said, may I please have your permission to go to my father's house? She said, I really want to see my birthplace one more time. I want to spend time with my sisters and my mother. I'm sure they are there. And that I want to put on all these ornaments that my father gave me as dowry. I haven't ever put them on after getting married. So this will be my opportunity to, kind of dress up nicely. And she said that, my dear husband, it's very difficult for a daughter to remain undisturbed when she finds out there is some kind of festival or festivity, I should say, going on at her father's house. I said, no, I know we have not been invited, but really, my dear husband, there is no harm if one goes to the house of a friend, her husband, guru, or father without invitation. You don't need an invitation to go to these houses. Friend's house, husband's house, guru's house, or father's house. Well, Lord Shiva remembered all the insulting things that Daksha had said. And he said, yes, you are right, my dear wife. Indeed, one may go to a friend's house without invitation, But not if the friend finds fault in his guest because of bodily identification and actually get angry towards him. He said, one should not go to the house of any friend or relative when that man is disturbed in his mind and looks upon the guest with angry eyes. And he cautioned her, look, if you go, you will not be honored at your father's house because you're my wife. Rather, you will be sorry that you're connected with me. Your father has insulted me with very cruel words, and all simply because of envy towards him. And I'm innocent. I haven't done anything to him. And then he warned her again, my dear wife, just understand the future will not be good for you if you go there in spite of my instruction. Please understand, you are the most respectable lady, and any insult by your relatives will be equal to death for you. That's how you will feel. And having said that, Lord Shiva just fell silent. He said, I've said what I have to say, now you decide. But Sati Mata was very, very anxious to see her relatives at her father's house. But she didn't want to offend her husband. She was actually afraid of the warning that Lord Shiva had given. So her mind was really unsettled. She would go out, come back in. She would go out, come back in. Just like the swing moves this way and that way. Going out, coming back. Going out, coming back in. She did that many, many times. But she was just so upset, so extremely upset at being forbidden to go to her father's house and see her, her relatives. She was crying like anything. And then she looked at Lord Shiva as if she was going to blast him with her vision. And then she left her father's house anyway. So when the servants of Lord Shiva see her living alone, they all followed her, including Nandi. And she reached her father's house. She entered the arena of sacrifice. And now see what happened. Because everyone was afraid of Daksha, no one except her mother and sisters received her well. And her father didn't talk to her, nor did he welcome her. He didn't even look at her. And then Sati noticed that there were no oblations for her husband, Lord Shiva. There was no share of the oblations for Lord Shiva. And then she realized that not only her father had failed to invite Lord Shiva, he did not even receive her. And that made her very, very angry. She looked at her father like she was going to burn him with her eyes. And she began to condemn the sacrifice.
Lata Mataji, please can you mute yourself, Mataji? Please.
Prabhuji, maybe you can mute her.
I'm trying. I think I got it.
Lata Mataji, can you mute, please?
Okay, so I just muted everyone. Okay, so hopefully it will be fine now. Okay.
If anyone knows her, they can call her number privately. I don't know.
Okay. So then she condemned everyone present there and said, you are very proud of unnecessary sacrifices. And she looked at her father, and in front of everyone, she said, my dear father, no one but you could be envious of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, who's free from all enmity. And he is always pure and a friend of all living entities. Only you can find fault in him. Even your father, Lord Brahma, honors him. And she continued that, look, no one should tolerate blasphemy of someone like Lord Shiva. And they should actually kill the blasphemer after cutting his tongue and then give up own life. And she wasn't done yet. She was so angry. She continued to address her father and said, you are an offender at the lotus feet of Lord Shiva. I'm very ashamed of our bodily relationship. And I condemn myself because my body is contaminated by a relationship with a person who's an offender at the lotus feet of this great personality, Lord Shiva. She said, I'm ashamed to be called your daughter. I'm sorry that this body has been produced by you. I shall therefore give it up. And while speaking like that, she sat down on the ground, sanctified herself with water, and closed her eyes. She started to meditate on the lotus feet of her husband, Lord Shiva, and she quit her body in a blazing fire that was produced from inside her body. Well, when the servants of Lord Shiva who had come with her saw this, they rushed to kill Daksha. But Bhrigu Muni, who was the main priest, he sensed what was about to happen. So very quickly, he uttered some mantras and offered oblations that produced thousands of, in the Bhagavatam, I think I saw, it's 1,000 of demigods known as Ribhus. And they attacked all these servants of Sati and Lord Shiva with the half-burnt fuel from the sacrifice fire, which caused them to run away and disappear. So where did they run away? They ran away to Lord Shiva. But Narad Muni, having observed all this from a distance, he went to Lord Shiva before these servants could arrive and informed him that Sati was now dead and his soldiers had been driven away. Well, when Lord Shiva heard that, he became extremely angry. He snatched a hair from his head and dashed the hair to the ground, which created a very fearful demon, as high as the sky, as bright as 3 suns. The demon had thousands of arms, and each arm he carried weapons. He was garlanded, he had a garland made of heads of men, and his name was Veerbhadra. Lord Shiva ordered him to kill Daksha and all his soldiers. So, Veerbhadra, followed by the soldiers of Lord Shiva, went to Daksha's house where the sacrifice was arranged anyway. As he approached that place, the arena of sacrifice, suddenly there was a darkness that seemed to be caused by a dust storm. And it enveloped the whole place, which caused severe anxiety in the heart of everybody because everybody was saying, this is morning time. There's no dust storm. So where is this coming from? But Prasuti, who was the mother of Sati and the wife of Daksha, she understood it's all happening because of Sati's death. So by then, Veerbhadra and the soldiers had arrived, And right away, they started to pull down the pillars that were supporting the pandal, which is like the tent where the sacrifice was happening. And they began destroying the sacrificial arena. They arrested Bhrigu Muni and Daksha, along with many demigods and Brahma. And then something very interesting happened. Virabhadra was so angry that he tore the mustache of Bhrigu Muni. He tore out the eyes of Bhaga. We'll talk about it in a second. Because he was moving his eyebrows, raising up and down and moving them left and right as Bhrigu was cursing Lord Shiva. Then Virabhadra knocked down the teeth of Daksha and of Pusha, who had also shown his teeth because he was smiling sympathetically at Daksha as he was cursing Lord Shiva, or blaspheming Lord Shiva. Then Virabhadra sat on the chest of Daksha and he tried to cut his head off. And he used all sorts of very sharp weapons like knife and sword and whatever else. And then with the mantras, but he couldn't do it. He couldn't cut even the skin of Daksha's head. Finally, he saw the wooden device, something resembling a guillotine, that was supposed to be used to kill the animals during the sacrifice. And he used that successfully to behead Daksha. After that, they set fire to the whole arena and went back to Kailash Hill where Lord Shiva lives. The demigods, the sages who were at the sacrifice, and some had their hands broken, some had their legs broken, some had their head broken by Virabhadra and his soldiers. They all showed up and to Lord Brahma. Now Brahma saw them and he said, I didn't go there to the sacrifice. I was invited because I knew this was going to happen. And he said to all these people, the demigods and the sages, to go immediately to Kailash Hill and apologize to Lord Shiva. And then he said, no, you know what? I'm coming with you. I'll take you. So they all went there and they saw Lord Shiva. He was sitting under a banyan tree. Now, banyan trees usually are very big, but let me tell you about the dimensions of this banyan tree. 800 miles high, with branches spread over 600 miles around. That's some banyan tree. And that's what Lord Shiva was doing. He was giving a discourse to the Kumaras, the Sanak, Sanandan, Sanatan, Sanat Kumar, and Narad Muni. And there were many other sages. He was giving a discourse. So when Lord Brahma showed up, immediately Lord Shiva got up, offered his obeisances to his father, and asked him for the purpose of his visit. And Lord Brahma said, Lord Shiva, please forgive everyone. Because all these people, they were acting under the influence of Maya. And he said, please, when they restart the sacrifice, please accept your share of sacrifice. And please give back Daksha his life, Bhrigu his mustache, Bhaga his eyes, and Pusha his teeth, like all those things that were broken. And of course, then he said, please fix all the other people whose hands and legs, etc., are broken. And Lord Shiva said, my dear father, I'm not upset about the offense done by these demigods. Because, I know they're childish and they are not very intelligent. But the reason for me punishing them was I wanted to correct them. And then he said, well, I can revive Daksha, but I cannot give him his head back because it's already been burnt in the fire that was set by my soldiers. So it's already burned to ashes. So therefore, I'll take the head of a goat that was meant to be killed in the sacrifice, and I'll attach that to Daksha's body. Bhaga will see through the eyes of Mitra, which means he may not be able to see well daytime, but he'll be able to see nicely nighttime. And Pusha won't get his teeth, but he will be able to chew through the teeth of his disciples. And Bhrigu will have a beard, but also from a goat. So it was all agreed, and Lord Shiva did his magic thing, and everything was fixed. When Daksha got his head back, he immediately woke up and he started to offer prayers to Lord Shiva. And now he was very emotional. His voice was choking. He had tears in his eyes. And he acknowledged to Lord Shiva that he insulted him. And he said, "My dear Lord, I insulted you because I did not fully understand your glories." And he said, "I accept this punishment as your compassion." And he requested Lord Shiva to be pleased with him, not because he deserves it, but by his own mercy. Because he said, there are no words that I can speak to satisfy you. So just from your own mercy, by your own mercy, please be pleased with me. Of course, Lord Shiva, he pardoned Daksha and everybody else. And with permission of Lord Brahma, Daksha started the performance of another yajna immediately. Now, as soon as Daksha offered the oblations and the mantras from Yajurveda, Lord Vishnu appeared. Amazing. Because it was done right, Lord Vishnu appeared. Of course, everybody immediately offered their obeisances. They offered their wonderful prayers to the Lord. Daksha worshipped Lord Vishnu separately, and he also worshipped Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Okay. So that's the end of the story of Lord Shiva and Sati and Daksha. Now, any questions before we move to chapter 8 with the story of Dhruva Maharaj?
I have a question.
Please go ahead, Radhika.
Hare Krishna, Uncle.
Hare Krishna.
So, in Sati's case, she saw that her father was insulting Lord Shiva, and she corrected her, or she maybe told off her dad with some very harsh words. And as we understand, sometimes it is said that no matter how difficult the situation, a younger person should not really correct a person who is seen as their authority, especially without the permission of another authority figure or another leader. But in this scenario, she went ahead and did it. So was she correct or not? I mean, I understand Lord Shiva was her husband, how she must have felt, and he's also a great devotee. But even then, sometimes the advice is always given, like if somebody is not for you to correct, you don't correct them.
Yeah, excellent question, actually. So there is something called higher principle. And the higher principle here is that Lord Shiva is a very special personality. He's Shiva Tattva, above any Jiva, even above Lord Brahma. And that's what she said, even Lord Brahma glorifies him. And he is the qualitative expansion of Lord Krishna. So that makes him a very special person. So she wasn't so upset because he was her husband. She was upset for who he was. And that she did not understand and insulted him. So yeah, she said, I'm going to correct you and then I'm going to give up my life. One of the reasons being that I cannot tolerate the insult of my father, of my husband. And also because I'm doing something wrong here in terms of exactly what you said. So I'm going to give up this body. She sat down and through her mystic powers, she burned herself from inside. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mother.
And I just recall that in one of the lecture regarding the same Sati and the Shiva, when Sati left her body, and it was like that what was explained that Sati understood that Shiva is one of the greatest devotee of Lord, and that was her character, that she knew when somebody is doing blaspheming about a great Vaishnava, she went to the extent that she left her body also, because she knew that it's a great offense to even listen the blaspheming of a great Vaishnava. So
That's correct. So actually, the real injunction is that if someone blasphemes the scriptures or God, then you should either kill him or cut his tongue off or kill yourself. The modification in the age of Kali is that you just walk away from there. Because you're not supposed to kill anybody. Don't try to cut somebody's tongue off. And certainly, don't kill yourself. So the injunction is for Kali Yuga, you just walk away. But that was...
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay, so then we'll move on to the story of Dhruva Maharaj, which basically starts of chapter 8 of Canto 4. So you may recall that we talked about Swayambhu Manu. Anybody recalls how he was born? Anybody remembers how he was born? Manu and Shatrupa. Manu from the right side of Brahma.
And left
On
side.
left side of the...
That's right. So that's why it's called Swayambhu, no mother and no father in the traditional sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then we also said that he had two sons. Anybody remember the name of the two sons?
Uttanpad and
Priyavrata.
Sorry?
Uttanpad and
Uttanpad and Priyavrat, yes. Thank you. Okay, so he had two sons named Uttanpad. Uttanpad was the older, I'm confused. I think Priyavrata was older, but he was not interested in the kingdom. And he basically was performing his penances. So Uttanpad became the king. Uttanpad had two wives, Suniti and Suruchi. And in those days, the names were given according to the nature and the qualities of the person. So you can see the name implies that Suniti was someone who was very moral, very traditional, followed all the rules and everything. Suruchi, on the other hand, did whatever she felt like, whatever fancied her, she did that. Anyway, so Suruchi was a younger wife of King Uttanpad, and she was very dear, more dear than anybody else to Uttanpad. At the same time, Suniti was the older wife, and she had a son named Dhruva, was being ignored. I mean, she was no longer his favorite, but like she was really being ignored. He was so much into Suruchi. So one day, as Uttanpad was sitting on his throne, Suruchi was sitting beside him, and he had her son, Suruchi's son, whose name was Uttam. He was sitting on Uttanpad's lap. So just imagine a scene on the throne, king is sitting with his son on his lap. Beside him is sitting the wife. Now Dhruva Maharaj, the son of Suniti, wanders in and he sees three people sitting on the throne. So he also runs up to the father and he tries to climb up his father's lap. But Uttanpad did not really very much welcome him. He didn't say anything like, oh, my baby, come on, come on, come on. He didn't say anything like that. He was barely looking at him, actually. And Suruchi said, my dear child, you do not deserve to sit on the throne or on the lap of your father. Actually, she said, on the lap of the king. He said, yeah, I realized that you are also his son. But because you did not take your birth from my womb, you're not qualified to sit on your father's lap. And then she did something amazing. She suggested to Dhruva, this 5-year-old boy, she suggested to him that he should perform severe austerities so that you may become deserving of sitting on the throne. And she said, so go satisfy Lord Narayan. And then by his mercy, take birth from my womb. And then you can sit on the throne. So go satisfy Lord Narayan, by his mercy, take birth from my womb, and then you can sit on the throne. Well, I have a question from you. If Dhruva Maharaj got real mercy from Narayan, would he take birth from Suruchi's womb?
No.
Would he take birth from anybody's womb?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
If he got real mercy from Lord Narayan, would he get birth from anybody's womb?
No.
After getting the mercy?
No problem.
No. Because
No
otherwise,
problem.
yeah, his mercy is real mercy is that you don't come back to the material world. You're never born again. So she didn't understand that, obviously. But she did advise, to her credit, she did advise that, yeah, go satisfy Lord Narayan if you want to be deserving to sit on. Please, everyone, can you mute yourself, please? Okay. Well, the 5-year-old boy, Dhruva Maharaj, he was extremely angry when he heard the words of his stepmother. But then he also noticed that my father did not do anything to stop her. He did not protest. And when he realized that, he immediately left that place. And he went straight to his mother, Suniti. Now, Suniti had already been told by her servants about this whole incident that happened. So when she saw him coming, she picked him up on her lap and she had these tears, but these are tears of anger and frustration in her eyes. And she said, my son, my very dear son, don't wish anything inauspicious for other people, because anyone who inflicts pain upon others suffers from that pain. It's so profound. She's saying, don't wish ill for anybody, because if you cause somebody pain, you will suffer from that pain also. She's teaching her 5-year-old son. And then she said, look, it's true. It's true that your father no longer cares for me. He doesn't think of me as his wife anymore. He doesn't even treat me as a maid servant. They get more respect. They get more care than I do. So in a way, your stepmother is right that you've taken birth from the womb of an unfortunate woman. And she said, your stepmother's words may be harsh, but they're true. She makes sense. And if you really wish to sit on your father's throne, then you must immediately execute her instructions. Imagine. What was the instructions? He was saying, go satisfy Lord Narayan. And she's saying, Suniti is saying, yes. You should immediately execute her instructions. And instructions were engage in the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So she did. And then she reminded him, your great grandfather, Brahma, got his exalted post by the mercy of the Lord only because he worshipped her. And your grandfather, Swayambhu Manu, achieved his success in material happiness only by worshipping the Lord's lotus feet. She said, you cannot get that kind of position or happiness by worshipping any demigods. So therefore, your stepmother is right. And then she spoke a verse that's one of my absolute favorite verses in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. And that is that Canto 4, chapter 8, text 23. And she said, Nayam tattah padma palashalochana dukchigdam te mrigyami kanchana yom mrigyate hasta grahita padmaya shiyate anga vimragyamanya. Basically, it's saying that, look, I don't know of anybody. I have looked and have not found anybody but the lotus-eyed Supreme Personality of Godhead who can mitigate your distress. Basically, she was saying that, nobody else can do that. And then she gives the example of the demigods. She says, the demigods literally seek the pleasure of Lakshmi. But what is Lakshmi doing? She's with a lotus flower in her hand. She's always looking for an opportunity to render services to her Lord. She's not interested. She's not paying any attention to the demigods. So therefore, the person to whom everybody is looking up to is looking for an opportunity to serve. That person is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that person alone, that person only can be the person who can mitigate the distress you're feeling today. Well, this was convincing enough for Dhruva Maharaj. So when he heard that, he left the palace. Now imagine, 5-year-old boy leaving the palace where he had the facility of soft bed, wonderful frame, all the amenities, all the servants. He didn't care for any of this. He just left, walked out of the palace, started walking towards the forest. Well, as you know, Krishna is looking at everything as super soul or otherwise. And so as super soul in Narad Muni, he inspired him to go talk to this boy. So Narad Muni showed up in front of Dhruva as he was walking to the forest. And he spoke out loud. He said, just imagine, this boy is only 5 years old, but he found it unbearable to tolerate the harsh words of his stepmother Suruchi. And then he got in front of Dhruva and he said, my dear Dhruva, why are you going to the forest? I mean, you're 5 years old. This is your age to play. Play with your friends of your age. But it's not just that. Dhruva, you should be satisfied with whatever comes your way. Favorable or unfavorable. But it's coming by Lord's will. So just be satisfied with that. Sometimes it will be an insult. Sometimes it will be an honor. Sometimes it will be something you want. Sometimes it will be something you don't want. But be satisfied under all situations. And he said, you're planning to perform severe austerities to satisfy the Lord. But don't you realize it's very difficult? This is not something easy. It's very difficult to satisfy the Lord even after many, many lifetimes of austerities. many, many lifetimes of austerities. So he said, you're only 5 years old. Don't try it now. Go home. Wait until you grow up, and then you can try it. What's the rush? In the meantime, just be satisfied with any condition of life. You're too young to be worried about all this. Now, Dhruva Maharaj gave a wonderful answer. He said, my dear Narad Muni, I'm a child. I'm covered by ignorance. Therefore, I'm sorry, but your advice does not resonate with me. I'm sorry, but I cannot accept your advice. Then he says, as an explanation, he said, I'm a Kshatriya, and a Kshatriya cannot tolerate the harsh words of anybody, cannot tolerate the insults by anybody, even if that's my stepmother. And then he said, my dear sir, I want to occupy a position more exalted than that was achieved by my father or even my grandfather. So I'm not looking for something ordinary. If you want to oblige me, kindly advise me. How can I achieve that goal of my life? So basically, I was kind of reflecting on this, and I said, So without actually saying so, Dhruva Maharaj was telling Narad Muni, either tell me how I get to see the Lord, or get out of my way. You're a distraction. Well, Narad Muni was impressed. He was very impressed, and he felt very compassionate towards Dhruva. And he advised him to completely absorb himself in the devotional service of the Lord. And then he said, you know what? You should go to this forest called Madhuvan, which is on the bank of Yamuna. Has anybody been to Madhuvan? Okay, my wife said raise her hand. Anybody else? Okay, it's in the bridge area, beautiful area. So if you go to the 84 course parikrama, you get to see this. And if you haven't been there, there's a place called Dhruva. It's like a small, very, very tiny hill on the top of which Dhruva Maharaj sat and performed his meditation. Anyway, so Narad Muni advised him to go to Madhuvan to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his pastimes. And then he gave him the 12-syllable mantra for worshipping Lord Krishna. Anybody knows what that mantra was?
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. So this is called the 12-syllable mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And Narad Muni also instructed Dhruva Maharaj to build a physical form of the Lord and install it, and to do puja by offering flowers, fruits, the tulsi leaves, etc., and then chant this mantra 3 times a day. So at that, Dhruva Maharaj offered his respectful obeisances to now his spiritual master, because he'd just been initiated by Narad Muni, and he left for Madhuvan. Narad Muni turned around and went to Uttanpad, Dhruva's father. He found him sitting on the throne with his head down, feeling very morose, and lamenting the fact, not the fact, but lamenting the whole incident. And he was terribly worried about the welfare of his 5-year-old son. He had no idea where he's gone. He had no idea if he's safe, if he's still living. So Narad Muni assured him that his son is safe, and he also assured him that the son will accomplish whatever he set out to do. Are there any questions?
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead. Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
You are on mute.
Prabhuji, I wanted to ask that in Bhagavad Gita, we hear about being equipoised, that if you are being respected, or you're being, even Guru Maharaj says that if somebody insults you, you should not react to that. But I was just thinking, if Dhruva Maharaj would not have reacted to that, how would he go to forest, and how would we be listening to this pastime today?
So, I'm sorry, your question is not clear. Can you say it again? Is somebody chanting in the background? Mute yourself, please, for chanting. Okay, sorry, Sonam, go ahead.
Prabhuji, I was saying that we always hear about being equipoised. So if Dhruva Maharaj, though he was a 5-year-old boy at that time, but would he have followed this instruction of being equipoised and not react to any insults which are being done, then he would not have gone to forest.
Correct. That is correct.
So, are there any exceptions to this instructions? I mean, I'm just trying to understand.
Understand your point. So basically, Krishna is saying that if you want to achieve me, and you have to perform devotional service, and he says, once you become equipoised, you become even more eligible to come to me. So clearly, a 5-year-old boy is not expected to be equipoised. But because he's not equipoised, we're still hearing about him because of his extraordinary ability to perform the austerities that he did. Right from the point of leaving the palace. I mean, imagine a 5-year-old boy saying, I'm not going to live here, going to the forest, being so determined that he's ready to tell Narad Muni off. And he's not afraid of the beasts in the forest, not afraid of being eaten alive, all that. He's so determined. And we'll talk in a minute about how he performed the penances. If you can do all that, then I guess you don't need to be equipoised. And actually, we'll see, before we finish the story, that even after he became a pure devotee and had the darshan of the Lord, at least once he lost his cool. And we'll talk about that. Okay, am I addressing your point?
Yes, Prabhuji, I understood. I actually wanted to know if there are any exceptions, and you've rightly said that if somebody can do the penances like Dhruva Maharaj, then I think we can skip this instruction, otherwise it's for us.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, all right, then we'll move on. Okay, so Dhruva Maharaj finally reached Madhuban, and he engaged in the devotional service, just like Narad Muni had told him. So he was following his spiritual master's instructions to the letter and in spirit. So I was just referring to the austerities performed. So let's see what were his austerities. So this is a 5-year-old boy. For the first month, he only ate fruits and berries. Not every day, every third day. The whole month was like that. Some of us can't even keep Ekadashi for one day. In the second month, he stopped eating the fruits and the berries. All he ate was dry grass and dry leaves. Not every day, but only every 6 days. His austerities are increasing in severity. In the third month, he gave up that also. And he only drank water, not every day, but every 9th day. Whole month like that. In the 4th month, he stopped drinking water and only inhaled air. Not every day, every 12th day. How many of us can hold our breath even for 12 minutes?
No one.
No one. No one that I know of anyway. But he was inhaling only once every 12 days. The whole month went like that. In the 5th month, he controlled his breathing and he stood only on one leg. So now he's not even standing on both feet, or both legs, standing on one leg. And thus he completely controlled his senses and fixed his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, imagine the power he's getting. As he was standing on one leg, the pressure of his leg, I should say pressure of his big toe actually, pushed down half of the earth. Dhruva Maharaj had closed all the holes in his body because he was not breathing anymore. So by doing that, he actually ended up choking up the entire universe. And the demigods were feeling suffocated because they couldn't breathe. Nor could they understand why they cannot breathe. So they did what they always do. They went to their father, Lord Brahma, who said, let us go to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they went there and they all prayed and they begged the Lord to save them from this big danger. I said, okay, no problem. We'll do it. And he told them what's going on. And he said, I'll go and stop Dhruva from continuing with his austerities. In the 6th month, Dhruva Maharaj could see the Lord in his heart and was constantly meditating upon him. But then one day, suddenly, that brilliant form of the Lord in his heart disappeared. Same thing had happened in Narada Muni, you may remember. So same thing happened to Dhruva. He was seeing the Lord in his heart, but suddenly the Lord disappeared from his heart. Of course, Dhruva Maharaj was extremely disturbed. And feeling disturbed like that, he opened his eyes. But when he opened his eyes, what happened? He saw the Lord personally present right in front of his eyes. So immediately Dhruva Maharaj got up and fell down like a rod to offer his prostrate obeisances. And he stood up and he wanted to offer prayers to the Lord. But 5-year-old boy, he had no idea what to say. So he just stood there looking at the Lord. So of course, being the super soul also, Lord knew what's in his heart. And he touched Dhruva's forehead with his conch shell. And by doing that, the Lord empowered Dhruva Maharaj to offer suitable prayers to the Lord. So Dhruva Maharaj offered wonderful prayers. And then he begged the Lord to bless him with the association of pure devotees. And he said, that pure devotee association will help me cross the ocean of material existence. And then he said something amazing. He said, my dear Lord, worshipping you is better than becoming a king. Now this is the same Dhruva who left the palace because he wanted the throne so bad. And now he's saying, no. Worshipping you is better than becoming a king. And actually, it's not mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but elsewhere it says that Dhruva Maharaj said that, my dear Lord, I had started out looking for broken pieces of glass, useless pieces of glass. But now I've found touchstone. I therefore feel no need for any other benediction. A very famous verse says, Kritartho asmin bhagwan varam na yache. I've achieved what I wanted to achieve. I don't want any other benediction. No benediction can compare to getting the opportunity to see you face to face, offer you obeisances and prayers, and get the benediction of worshipping you in the association of pure devotees. But the Lord said, Dhruva, you executed pious vows. And I know the desire in your heart because I'm Paramatma. And I will fulfill your desire that you carried in your heart. And he said, Dhruva, I shall award you the glowing planet known as pole star, which will continue to exist even after the apocalypse, the dissolution at the end of the millennium. He said, no one has ever ruled this planet. This planet is surrounded by all the solar systems, planets, and the stars and everything. And having gone there, you will never have to return to the material world. So does anybody know where this planet is located? The name and location?
Dhruva planet,
Yes. Also in English known as pole star.
pole star. Yes.
Yeah. And where is it located?
With the other stars.
Well, let me rephrase my question to make it easier. Is it in the material world or is it in the spiritual world?
Spiritual world.
Okay, so let me remind you, I just said.
In the sky, I think.
This is
With the other stars is the Dhruva planet.
So Dhruva planet, you can see it from here.
Yeah.
So is it the spiritual world or in the material world?
Is in spiritual world.
This is the material world, but it's spiritual planet in the material world.
Correct. Remember when I was...
It's in the northern hemisphere, so we can see it from here.
Yes, you can. So remember I was talking about the construction of the universe, and I shown a spot where I said, this is where Lord Vishnu resides, the Chirodakshai Vishnu, and this is a portion of the material world, cut out of material world, but it's the spiritual world. So this spiritual world within the boundaries of material world.
Material world.
So it's still a spiritual world. So pole star is in the spiritual world. But because it's in the material world, the stars, planets are circumambulating it, and you can see it from here. Spiritual world you cannot see, the other spiritual world. But pole star you can see. Okay? Okay. So the Lord said that, all the planets and the stars and solar systems, even the sages, Saptarishis, etc., they'll be circumambulating this planet. And he said, in addition, you will stay here in the material world and you will rule this entire world for 36,000 years.
Oh my God.
36,000 years. That was nothing actually in those days.
36.
In Satyug, average age was 100,000 years. So yeah, you'll rule it for 36 years. And then he said, he did kind of a forecast. He said, your brother Uttam will be killed in a forest, and your stepmother Suruchi will burn in fire when she goes looking for him. You will perform many fire sacrifices. You will give in charity, and you will enjoy the material happiness. But at the time of death, you will remember me, and therefore you'll come to me. Well, and then the Lord disappeared. Now something very interesting happened. Despite the benediction of the Lord to get the whole planet as his kingdom, and after death, go to the spiritual world, pole star, Dhruva was not very happy inside. He returned home, but it kept bothering him that, and actually so much so that he felt actually ashamed that he had made material demands in his heart. Even though he did not ask for it, he would say, I don't want it, but the desire was there. And he said, I am so unfortunate that I prayed for material things instead of relief from repetition of birth and death. He said, what's the difference between me and a poor man who gets an audience with the emperor of the world. He could ask for anything he wants, but he asked for a few broken grains of husk rice. How stupid is that? And he was really feeling very bad. But anyway, yeah. King Uttanpad, when he heard that his son is coming back, he immediately mounted his chariot along with the members of his family, certainly the two wives and the Brahmins and everybody else. They rushed towards where Dhruva Maharaj was. As soon as he saw Dhruva Maharaj, he jumped from his chariot and embraced Dhruva Maharaj very lovingly, in tight embrace, and repeatedly smelled his head, which was one of the traditions those days, that you smell the head of somebody you love. Actually, I think these days we do that, people will think you're weird. But then it was the custom. Anyway, that was he did. Dhruva Maharaj saw his stepmother Suruchi. He offered her his obeisances first, and then of course, as soon as he did that, his stepmother Suruchi picked him up and blessed him with very long life. And then, of course, he offered obeisances to his mother Suniti, who also embraced him very tightly. And then they got home, and things were going on. After a few years, King Uttanpad said, "I'm going to retire," and he gave the throne to Dhruva Maharaj, who became the emperor of the entire planet Earth. We moved to chapter 10, where described that Dhruva Maharaj's brother Uttam decided to go hunting one day. He went to the forest, but there he ran into a yaksha who killed Uttam. When Uttam did not return for a long time, his mother Suruchi went to the forest looking for him, but there was an unfortunate fire, and she died in that fire. Dhruva Maharaj found out about this, and he became very angry. Very, very angry to hear this news. He decided he was going to battle the yakshas. Oh, by the way, do you know what a yaksha is? Anybody knows what a yaksha is? Who are the yakshas? I should remind you that a yaksha was the person who asked Yudhishthira Maharaj those famous questions. Otherwise, he was going to die. No? Okay, anyway. So yakshas, generally speaking, they are devotees of Lord Shiva, but they appear like a ghost. Their appearance is that of a ghost, but they're devotees of Lord Shiva. Anyway, and these yakshas were living in one city, and so Dhruva Maharaj went there to do battle with them. So the yakshas had their own army, and they came in front of him with weapons and everything, and the battle started. But very quickly, yakshas found out that they were no match for Dhruva Maharaj. Most of them got killed very quickly. The rest of them started to flee from the battlefield. But then they regrouped, they returned. Now this time they decided to use their mystic powers. And by the mystic powers, Dhruva Maharaj felt that he was being showered with huge stones and trees and wind and all this snow and sleet and all those kind of things. And then a fierce sea with foaming waves and roaring like anything like the seas do is coming towards him. And Dhruva Maharaj was actually worried. And he seemed like he was covered with all these arrows and stones and boulders and trees and all those kind of things. But some of the sages had gathered to see this battle. So when they saw that Dhruva Maharaj was being overpowered by the mystic tricks of his yakshas, they encouraged him to chant and hear the holy name of the Lord. Now imagine Dhruva Maharaj in the middle of this battle, he's under attack, and he's being advised to chant the holy name of the Lord. And he did. And the sages said, if you chant his name, hear his holy name, the Lord will protect you from death. So thus feeling encouraged by the sages, Dhruva Maharaj said, chant, and he took an arrow, which was actually made by Lord Narayan. As soon as he joined the arrow to his bow, all the illusion created by the yakshas suddenly disappeared. And many arrows with golden shafts and steel or whatever arrow, they flew out of his bow and killed a majority of the enemy soldiers. And like there was hardly anybody left. Swayambhu Manu, Dhruva Maharaj's grandfather, was observing this. And he felt that his grandson Dhruva was indiscriminately killing all these yakshas. And he said, except for one guy, none of these people did any offense. They're not the offenders. So why are they being killed? So he felt great amount of compassion for these yakshas. So in that compassion, he approached Dhruva Maharaj and started giving him some very good instructions. And he said, Dhruva, stop this killing. It's not good to become unnecessarily angry, because anger is the path to hellish life. And frankly, my dear Dhruva, you're going beyond limit. You're crossing a line by killing all these yakshas who are not really offenders to you. And because they're not offenders, killing them is not approved by the authorities, nor does it befit your family. I mean, your family is very exalted. They understand the laws of religion. So therefore, this does not become you. And he added, he said, look, I understand why you're angry. You loved your brother. But to kill so many for the fault of one is forbidden in the scriptures. It's just not approved. You are a pure devotee. You're a pure devotee of the Lord. You are recognized as a pure devotee of the Lord. Your life is meant to be exemplary. Therefore, I'm surprised that you've taken such an abominable task. You're killing unnecessarily. And you know that the Lord is satisfied with the devotee who manifests the quality of tolerance. Tanadapi sunichena taroriva sahishnam. So the quality of tolerance, mercy, friendship, and equality are very much appreciated by the Lord. And you are showing none of these at this time. He said, you know, I realize that your brother died, but you should understand that birth and death is caused by the Supreme Lord, who is the cause of all causes. Everyone, even my father, Lord Brahma, is working under his control. And then he gave a very nice example. He said, just like a bull is controlled by its owner through a rope that goes through his nose. And just that rope, I should say, with that rope, the owner is able to control the bull. Who's much stronger than the owner, is controlled by that rope. Similarly, everybody is controlled by the Lord. Everything is controlled by the Lord. Lord, his time feature is all powerful. So he said, please surrender to the Lord. And he said, look, you already achieved the topmost position in the world. Actually, in all the three worlds. So why don't you once again turn your attention to the Lord and recognize that everybody is a spirit soul, a part and parcel of the Lord. And stop this material differentiation between I and you. There's no I and you. So please follow my instructions, and I wish you all good fortune. And then he stopped talking. Actually, no, I forgot. Before he stopped talking, he also reminded Dhruva Maharaj that the Yakshas are the members of Kuvera family. Kuvera is a brother of Lord Shiva. So he said, by indiscriminately killing the Yakshas, you actually have been an offender and very disrespectful to both Kuvera and Lord Shiva. So please immediately pacify Kuvera with gentle words and prayers so that his anger, his wrath will not affect our family. And with that, he left. So Dhruva Maharaj had listened to his grandfather very attentively. And therefore, he followed his advice and completely stopped killing the Yakshas. When Kuvera heard this, he appeared in front of Dhruva and he appreciated that Dhruva had stopped killing of his kinsmen, the Yakshas, and he instructed him, this is Kuvera now, Kuvera instructed Dhruva to continue to engage in the devotional service and said, you can ask me for any benediction. So Dhruva Maharaj, being a pure devotee he begged Kuvera that he, Dhruva, may have an unflinching faith in the Lord and may always remember the Lord. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. That's the philosophy. And Dhruva Maharaj said, I want to have that unflinching faith and constant memory or remembering of the Lord, because only the person who does that can cross over the ocean of nescience. So Kuvera very happily gave that benediction, disappeared, and Dhruva Maharaj came back to his capital city. At home, he performed many great sacrifices for the pleasure of the Lord. And he did devotional service to the best way he could. He was very respectful to the devotees of the Lord, very kind to the poor and innocent, and he protected religious principles. And like that, he ruled over the world for 36,000 years. At the end of that, he handed over the throne to his son and went to Badrikashram to lead a retired life in pure devotion service. And in that devotion service, he became completely liberated, in that he forgot about his bodily existence and got rid of all the material bondages. And basically, his body became transcendental. As soon as that happened, he saw a very beautiful airplane coming down from the sky. And from that, two very beautiful associates of Lord Vishnu, in their 400 form, their names were Nand and Sunand. They came out of the plane. Dhruva Maharaj offered his obeisances and glorified the holy name. I should say chanted the holy name, and of course in chanting glorified the holy name. Nand and Sunand introduced themselves as servants of the Lord Vishnu to be specific, and stated the purpose of their visit, which was to take him to the spiritual world. And then they glorified Dhruva Maharaj and his achievements. Dhruva Maharaj immediately took his bath, dressed himself with suitable ornaments, performed his daily spiritual duties, and then he went to each of the sages who were present there and offered his respectful obeisances to each one of them and accepted the blessings. Now this, I'll be honest with you, every time I read this, I'm amazed. Why? Because in my polluted mind, I always think that if I ever had an opportunity like that there's somebody here take me to the spiritual world, I wouldn't wait to go take a bath, to dress up, to do my spiritual duties, go to these sages, offer obeisances. I don't do that. I just said, Tata, you don't get to go there. I'm going. See you later, alligator. But no, not Dhruva Maharaj. He did all this to show his humility and to show how deserving he was to come back to Godhead. So, before getting on the airplane, Dhruva Maharaj worshipped the airplane also. He circumambulated it, and he offered his obeisances to Nanda and Sunanda, two associates of Lord Vishnu, who had come to take him. And then as he was attempting to get on the transcendental airplane, he saw death personified approach him. Imagine, you're going somewhere, suddenly death appears. But Dhruva Maharaj didn't care for death. He actually took advantage of this opportunity of his appearance, the death's appearance. He put his feet on the head of the death and then got on the airplane. And it's described in Srimad Bhagavatam that the airplane was as big as a house. Anyway, so he put his feet on the head of the death and got in the airplane. As the airplane was about to start, Dhruva Maharaj remembered his mother, Suniti. And he said to himself, how can I go alone to Vaikuntha? How can I leave behind my poor mother? I cannot do that. Nanda and Sunanda immediately understood his mind. And they showed him that, look in the front, your mother was going forward in another plane. So then he was satisfied. And then he knows that as he was passing through space, there were lots of planets of the solar system that they were passing through. And he saw demigods in their own planes showering flowers upon Dhruva Maharaj. And he went past the planets of Saptarishis, the seven sages. And finally he reached the planet where Lord Vishnu lives. So Maitreya Rishi was telling all this to Vidura. He concluded his narration by saying, and let's pay attention to this. Maitreya Muni told Vidura that by hearing this narration of Dhruva Maharaj, one can fulfill all desires for wealth, reputation, and long life. He can go to heavenly planets or even Dhruva Loka. And anyone who repeatedly tries to understand Dhruva Maharaj's pure character, he attains pure devotional service. So therefore, one should chant his glories both in the morning and evening. Hare Krishna.
Hare
So I'm going to stop and see if there are any questions. We are 5 minutes past our time, but if you wish to stay and ask any questions, you're welcome to do so.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Oh,
Krishna.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Prabhuji, you are saying that killing many people for one person's sin is a mistake. So why are you killing everyone? That's what was the sentence was. So then why Mahabharata happened when only Duryodhana and his brother made the sinful things? So why did they kill all the masters and all? Why not only them? Can you compare and let me explain, Prabhuji, please?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. In the case of the Yakshas, they were defending themselves. They were not attacking.
Okay.
Therefore, Swayambhu Manu said that you're crossing a line. One person made a mistake and you're attacking everybody, you're killing everybody. This is not right. On the contrary, in the case of Mahabharata war, all these people were attacking the Pandavas.
Okay.
They gathered there to attack the Pandavas. And even there were a lot of them, even before the war, they were supporting Duryodhana. So I think it's a totally different scenario. Those people were actually supporting the wrong side.
So being quiet and not saying anything is also supporting, you mean?
Being quiet, yes. Actually, in the scriptures it said that if you don't object to a unjustified action, then you become part of the guilty party.
Okay. Got it, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Prabhuji, I have a question. Dhruva Maharaj, after 36,000 years, did he go to the Dhruva planet or he went to Vaikuntha?
No. So after retired, he went to Badrikashram, and from there the plane came to take him to Dhruva Loka, which is the spiritual world.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mother.
Thank you for the wonderful class, Prabhu. Prabhu, my
Thank
question is, in which form did the Lord appear in front of, before Dhruva? In which
His,
form?
his
In
400
Narayan
Narayan
form?
Narayan.
400 Narayan form.
Okay, and because although he performed so many austerities in the land of Vrindavan, so why did Lord appear in the form of Narayan rather than Krishna?
Yeah, so it's not that he's not allowed to appear as Lord Narayan. So the pastime is different. This is not Krishna's time yet. In this day of Brahma, it's not time for Krishna's appearance yet. So Lord Rama has appeared, Lord Nrsimhadev, Lord Varahadev, they have all appeared, right, before Krishna did. So it just happens that that place is not at that time a replica of Goloka Vrindavan. At that time, it's Bhumi Vrindavan, right? But still, it's a very sacred place. So therefore, Dhruva Maharaj was advised to go there, and the Lord appeared. Right? The spiritual Vrindavan appeared millions of years later.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Sure.
I,
Anybody else?
I have a question.
Please do, yes.
Oh, thank you so much. You just quote from a scripture that if you go along with injustice, you are also guilty. Can you say which scripture that actually is? Like, is it Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam or?
No, it's I think it's one of the pastimes. I'm trying to remember. No, actually, I'm sorry. It's from Mahabharata.
Well, okay.
Mahabharata. And I think specifically they were talking about Bhishma Pitama and all the other elders like Kripacharya, Dronacharya who were present as Draupadi was being disrobed.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't say anything.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the point was made that therefore by association and by keeping quiet, you're guilty as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Sure.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mother.
Prabhu, initially Dhruva Maharaj started with material desire, and then he became a pure bhakta. And as we are all new to ISKCON, even we also starts like Dhruva with material desire. And then how long it takes to become like pure devotee, Prabhuji?
Well, it depends upon who you are. It took Dhruva Maharaj 6 months. It took Khatwanga, the King Khatwanga, less than 1 hour. And it will take someone like me billions of lifetimes. So it's all over the map, Mother. It depends upon how hard you're trying, how sincere you are. The formula is given. It depends upon your sincerity. It depends upon your eagerness. It depends upon your mood of surrender.
Yep.
It depends upon whose help you are getting, like your spiritual master, bona fide spiritual master. So there's many things, and the formula is also given in the Nectar of Devotion, where he talks about the 9 stages of devotional service, not 9 types of, that's different. 9 stages of devotional service to become or to achieve the love of God. It's a very famous verse from Nectar of Devotion, which starts something like Ado Shraddha Tato Sadhu Sang At Bhajan Kriya, right? It takes you different stages. It says faith is the beginning. If Krishna says there's a faith, he provides the opportunity to associate with devotees. In the association of devotees, you perform devotional service. That's number 3. As you perform devotional service, your anarthas, anarth nivritti, are removed, the unwanted things. That's 4. When that happens, then it leads to nishtha. That's number 5, which is firm, unflinching faith. Then you develop taste. 6. Then you develop attachment. That's 7. Then you develop bhava, which is the preliminary stage of love. That's 8. The number 9 is prema, love. So we all have to go through those stages. And we're starting with what we known as sadhana bhakti. In sadhana bhakti also there is another division which is called vaidhi bhakti, which is the service with rules and regulations. That's where we are. So we are still oscillating between faith, devotee association, devotional service, and some degree of getting rid of unwanted desires. And we are going back and forth in that. We have to somehow move beyond that to the level of nishtha, which means unflinching, unshakable, firm faith in Krishna. And you know the definition of that? Srila Prabhupada says in one of the purports, I think it quotes from Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says, Shraddha Sabde Vishwas Ei Sudhar Nischay Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krata Hoy, which means that firm faith is the firm belief that if I serve Krishna, everything else will get taken care of. That's the stage we want to get at. Love is very far. Bhava is very far. Let's first get to the stage of nishtha, which is firm faith. Faith we all have. Firm faith. Unshakable, unflinching faith. Krishna is my supreme master. Krishna is my best friend. Krishna is my well-wisher. Krishna is the enjoyer. Krishna will take care of me. Krishna will protect me from all dangers. I don't need to go anywhere else. That's what we're talking about. And we need to first get there. It's not difficult. We will get there. But we have to maintain our eagerness to serve the Lord and his devotees. We have to be sincere in our desire to please the Lord. Of course, we have to have patience. We have to have determination. Come what may, I'm serving my Lord. He's my number one. And when Krishna sees that and you perform service in that mode, Krishna will give you his love. Okay? So just stay sincere. Keep that desire to serve the Lord and his devotees. Chant as attentively as possible. Try not to offend people. In that mood, with a lot of patience, you serve the Lord and his devotees, you will get that. That's a guarantee. Not my guarantee, that's scripture's guarantee, Krishna's guarantee, Prabhupada's guarantee. Okay? Did I address it, brother?
Perfectly.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions?
Prabhu, I have one question if we have time.
As long as you have time, I have time. So once again, anybody who needs to leave may do so, no problem. Go ahead, please. Sunana Mataji.
Prabhuji, like sometimes it's with the same what Mataji spoke. It's like when we start our devotional service, and then like Dhruva Maharaj had the materialistic desires, and then he understood what is the value of the devotional service. We come with materialistic desires, then we further go into the devotional service. We understand all about the devotional service, and then time comes when it becomes monotonous, and at the same time the bhakti becomes the monotonous, right? It becomes something wherein you are not able to enjoy the materialistic life because Krishna doesn't allow you to do that when you come to bhakti. But at the same time, you feel like spiritual life is also somewhere stuck. it's not, either not going further, or somewhere you're losing interest in the chanting, or sometimes you feel like, okay, even the lecture is going on, we are listening. I mean, I'm personally talking about me. I'm listening, and still sometimes I feel like, okay, I'm just listening. Nothing is going in my mind right now. So how to, get rid of that stage and convince ourselves, or maybe keep that motivation high and go further with the same energy what we started with.
Yeah. So, I mean, Mother, it's not just you. I know many people, and certainly I'm in that category, where it's so difficult. Even Lord Chaitanya said in Sikshashtakam that Durdevam idisham ihana anuraga. Unfortunately, I have no love for Krishna. So even Lord Chaitanya is saying that, which means that most of us have the same issue. We just don't have the taste. We don't have the taste because we are coming from so much ignorance, avidya, where we're so influenced by Maya. We've been so busy trying to enjoy our life, our senses. We've been so used to doing it only for our senses. That is going to take a long time. And so what's required is that firm faith that I'm on the right path. If I keep doing this, Krishna will pick me up. And I know that because the scriptures are telling me so. Prabhupada said so. Other acharyas have said so. Therefore, I believe that. So that faith is very important. Because I cannot prove to you that it is correct. I cannot prove it to you. You have to take it on faith. So that's the basic ingredient, and that's why it starts first. It has to start with faith. So maintain that faith. Have the determination to keep trying despite obstacles, which will come your way. Have the patience that it will take time because I'm coming from a very bad place. And you keep at it. Keep that, I keep going back to the same word, eagerness. That keen desire to see Krishna, that keen desire to serve Krishna and his devotees is the key ingredient to make progress. When Krishna says you're so eager to do the service, he'll give you an opportunity to serve him and his devotees. Right? And he never forgets any service you do for him and his devotees. Any little service he'll remember and he'll reciprocate. So if you keep doing that, he feels almost like obliged that I can't leave you alone anymore. I need you with me. And whatever is left, he'll just erase it completely and he'll take you with him. But we need that faith because it's not that easy. There are too many distractions. We get distracted very easily. Maya is constantly acting upon us. It's not easy to fight. So that's why the mood of surrender to him. And just if you maintain the devotee association, it would be a little bit easier than otherwise. So this is why even in the time of COVID, we had figured out ways to keep that association as much as possible. So that at least for the time that we are in that association, we're somewhat away from Maya. Yeah, you're right. You still get thoughts. You still get distracted. Sometimes you're not even listening. Forget about just listening. You're not even listening sometimes. But that's okay. Little bit is better than nothing. And as we keep trying, the famous story about the blacksmith who had a grandson, you know that story. I think I told that story once before. Yes, no?
I don't know.
You remember that story? Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, the whole point was that the basket was cleansed, even though he could never carry water in it. And same thing. We may feel we don't remember anything, we don't recall anything, nothing is going in, but Chetodarpan Marjanam is happening. Every time we chant his name, every time we hear his name, Chetodarpan Marjanam is happening. It is getting cleansed. And each one of you, think 10 years ago, compared to today, what's the level of your material desires? What's the level of your desire to serve Krishna and his devotees? And I think you'll find there's a difference. So the progress is being made. It's just not complete because it will take time. Is that
Prabhuji.
satisfactory, Mother?
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you
Sure.
so much.
Yes, Aditi Mataji?
Prabhuji, you said Yaksha is Lord Shiva's brother, but Yaksha is even Raman's brother, right? Vishrav's son? No? No. The Kuber, I'm sorry, not Yaksha, Kuber.
Kuber is Yaksha. And Kuber is a devotee of Lord Shiva.
No, but he's the brother to even Ravan, right?
Brother to Ravan as well as to Lord Shiva.
Okay.
He was Ravan's cousin.
Ravan's cousin, okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna,
Prabhu, you
madam.
explained very well about sadhana bhakti. Could you please briefly explain what is sadhya bhakti?
Sorry, which bhakti?
Sadhya bhakti.
Sadhya bhakti.
Sadhya bhakti. Sadhana and sadhya. So I was
The
trying
word I know is sadhana. Sadhya basically means what's the objective, what's the ultimate goal.
that means prema. Is that
Sadhya is prema or Krishna.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
the term we use is sadhana bhakti. That's the process.
Process.
Sadhya is the goal.
Goal. Thank you, Prabhu.
Sure, no worries. Anything else? Going once, going twice.
Hare Krishna, Pitashri.
Hey, Nandimukhi, how are you?
Yes, Pitashri, I want to ask you sadhana bhakti ke, I think so, two parts. One is Vedi and second one is Raga Nuga bhakti, right?
Correct.
Okay. Just I want to make sure ki I'm right and I'm wrong.
Are you always right?
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Pitashri.
Sure, no worries.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right then, thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripasanabhyascha, Patitanam
Patitanam
Pavanebhyo,
Pavaneshu.
Namo Namo.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna,
so much for the
Prabhuji.
class.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna,
Thank you.
Pitashri.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank
Hare
you.
Hare
Thank
Krishna. Thank you
Hare
so much.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mother.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much.